Hey, how's it going? Gabriel back here with you once again on Sunday evening, here to discuss the Word of God once again. Today's topic is going to be a real short one. It's going to be on doing the will of God. What does God require of us as a people when He asks us, when He gives us a command and tells us that, you know, a task must be accomplished, something needs to be done, or even something as simple as telling us to stay away from something. How to do the will of God so that we will always obtain God's favor, so that we will always be in God's good graces. Also, I'm going to talk about the ways we also fall out of God's good favor, and how we can put up an umbrella of sin over us that will cause the blessings of God to pour out of heaven not to reach us because we have put up an umbrella of sin. So basically, today we're going to start off in the book of Genesis with the story of Cain and Abel. Well, basically, more importantly, Cain, because Cain was the one who killed his brother. So we're going to start in the book of Genesis and talk about how doing the will of God, doing what is required of you for God, how it is important in our lives as believers. In the book of Genesis, and chapter 4, verse 6, it says, And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Basically, God here is talking to Cain. Cain is obviously upset. Cain is obviously upset that God favors Abel's offerings, Abel's sacrifices. God favors Abel's sacrifices more than the offers of sacrifices coming from Cain, because Cain's sacrifice was a bit of a worldly sacrifice. It was the device according to his own knowledge, to his own hands. He wanted to do the sacrifice the way he wanted to do the sacrifice. Cain thought that, if he brought God all the vegetables and all the fruits and all the things of the land, that, this would be acceptable unto God. But Abel, not even being led, not even being told what to do by God, but was led by the Spirit of God on how to sacrifice unto God. Abel sacrificed the firstling of the flocks of the he goat. He sacrificed the lamb unto God, and this offering was acceptable before God, because once again, Cain, being led of the Spirit of God, was moved to do this offering before God, because this was the right thing to do, because it was the Spirit of God leading Cain to do such a worthy sacrifice. But Cain, on the other hand, he said, you know what, I'm not going to, deliver this, I'm not going to do it that way. Probably maybe that's gross, or maybe, that's just not the way Cain thought that it should be. So Cain did it his way. And Jesus, when God tells him here, if thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted. So God's basically saying here, just like I accepted your brother Cain, I can also accept you as well if thou doest well. One of the big setbacks for any Christian in their Christian life is if thou doest well. Many of us, are not doing what God has called us to do. A lot of people are doing things their own way, and saying that as long as it comes from a good heart, or it comes from a good place, God is going to accept that. That's not always the case. And if we turn here to Joshua, the book of Joshua, Okay, the book of Joshua, chapter 7, verse 13. Okay, the book of Joshua, chapter 7, verse 13, talks about the sin of Achan. And if we go down to the verse 13, Achan was basically a guy who was a part of Israel, They were a part of Israel. He was a part of Israel, him and his family. Achan decided to steal an artifact or, collectibles of gold and silver from a land that God had already set destruction upon. The commandment given here in the book of Joshua was when Joshua would go into a city to destroy the city, that when they destroy the city must be utterly destroyed. Not a piece or not a fraction or not any type of fragments or anything was to be left over. Not anything was to be eaten. Not anything was to be taken. Not anything was to be consumed. When the city was destroyed, the city was to be utterly destroyed and burnt by fire. This meaning because the things of the inhabitants of these cities that God has sent Joshua to destroy, they were involved in all types of witchcrafts, satanic idolatry practices. The gold and silver that God told the children of Israel not to take, these things were being used to create idols. These things were being used to worship false gods and things like that. These were things being offered unto, sacrificed unto demons and devils. So God basically tells them, you know what, in order for you to win the battle, you have to go in and do exactly as I say. When you go into the city, destroy the city utterly. Leave no remnant behind. Here is where the Bible gets a little upfront when God says to destroy everything, because God also meant to destroy the women and also the children of the land. That is another study for another time. Everything had to be destroyed. Not even the animals, not even the people's personal pets and things like that could be left behind. So what Achan did, Achan, as the walls of Jericho fell, and Joshua comes into the land, they destroy the land of Jericho. After they destroy Jericho, they come into this other land, and as they're going to siege this land, they begin to lose the battle. They begin to be overpowered by the enemy. The enemy kills most of the soldiers, most of Joshua's army, because Achan had broken the covenant, had broken the commandment of God. Achan had stolen an artifact because he saw the piece of gold and the silver, and he coveted it. And when he coveted it, he had the desire to steal it. So he took it and said, you know what? Let Joshua destroy the entire land, but I'm just going to keep this as a souvenir. Okay, so when Achan had did that, basically, there was a sin in Israel. Now, just like anything that God tells us to do, if we do not do it according to his will and according to his way, we will suffer great loss in the end. So basically here, Jericho, basically I keep saying Jericho, of Joshua suffers defeat here, and the Israelites suffer defeat here. And Joshua is wondering what happened. So Joshua goes to God in prayer, and God tells him, listen, there is sin amongst you. Joshua is, he's pleading with God and saying, tell me who, how, when, what happened. And God plainly says this: iniquity is among you, sin is among you. They had basically taken the accursed thing, the thing which God had cursed, had Achan stole it, and he had brought it into the camp. So he brought the accursed thing into the camp, which therefore brought the sin into the camp. And when sin is in the midst of anything, nothing can ever stand. Defeat will always come. And when sin is in the middle of anything, nothing can ever stand. So this is a prime example of why we have to follow God's will and why we have to follow all his commandments. And we have to do it exactly the way he tells us to do it, not your own way. Achan was just probably thinking, we're destroying this entire land. What is it going to hurt, for me to just take the gold and silver? And this is the type of complacent thinking that a lot of us Christians have today is, I've done my part for God. God would allow me to just do this. It's not like that. We have to do the will of God up until the very end. So basically what happened here, God commands Joshua to go and get Achan, get his family, get everything, all his possessions, even his animals, take them into the midst of the people and kill them. It's simple as that. And they were burned with fire. A lot of people may say this is harsh, but the study of this chapter, the study of this book is actually more spiritual than textual. So there's a lot more happening here. Not just the family being burned up. There's a lot more happening here. It's not just God, telling Joshua to run through a city of women and children and just kill them for nothing. Okay. There's a lot more going on here, which I don't have the time to get into today. But most of this scripture is all spiritual. For a lot of people, who like to get a misconception about the Bible that, God is an evil dictator, an evil God, and such, and blah, blah, blah. He kills women and children. No, that's not what's happening here. Although that is how it looks. But like I said, it's a study for another time. So basically, Achan had to be destroyed. Achan's family had to be destroyed. There was no way that Achan stole the artifact and his wife didn't know about it, because he brought that the silver and gold into the house of his family. They all knew about it. He didn't hide it from his wife. The wife eventually would have probably found it. But what happened is that the family had to be destroyed. Although Achan, stole the trespass, stole the accursed thing. And sin is a very powerful and a very deceptive thing. Once sin enters into a person or enters into any type of vessel, it spreads like a cancer. So this is why a lot of people can't understand why God has to take out His frustration on the third and fourth generation. Sin spreads all through the seeds of the generation. All through the generation does sin spread. Sin cannot just be taken care of with the root, which is the father. It has to be taken care of, when sin sprouts out, which are the children, which are the generations. So here is basically talking about sin, confirmation that sin existed within a family, and no one said anything about it, and basically this got Achan and his family destroyed. Join me on part 2 of this video, and we're going to go into the book of Kings and talk about the man of God and how he disobeyed God.